Welcome, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're exploring these concepts, the principle of Appa the Father and the principle of faith.
Interesting, right.
And they come from the writings of Shri Suresh Kumar Makam.
Disciple of the revered Shri Raghavendra Rao Sahib.
Exactly. Now, something that struck me right away, Shri Suresh has this disclaimer at the start of his book.
Oh, what does he say?
It reads, "Cleanse your manas or mind with the practice of sadhana, and then go through literature. Otherwise, reality will be lost upon you."
Setting the stage right from the beginning.
It's like a prerequisite almost.
Definitely. It suggests we need a certain preparedness to really grasp these principles, not just intellectual knowledge.
Yeah, it's deeper than that.
Like clearing your mind, getting rid of preconceptions.
Almost like preparing a garden bed before planting seeds.
I like that analogy. It highlights the reverence we should have when approaching Shri Suresh's work.
Absolutely. These aren't just theories, but principles that have shaped civilizations and spiritual paths for centuries. So let's dive into what Shri Suresh explores. He argues that civilizations are built upon these principles of fatherhood and faith.
Okay, interesting. How does he support that?
Well, he goes way back in history, using examples from ancient Egypt and Greece, even modern societies.
I see.
He points out how central the concept of fatherland is to many nations.
And how certain figures embody their values.
Yes, like George Washington for the USA.
Or Mahatma Gandhi for India.
Exactly. These figures become more than individuals. They represent a set of principles,
The shared origin.
a grounding point for their identity.
Right. And Shri Suresh argues that straying from these principles of fatherhood and faith leads to decline.
That's a powerful statement.
It's like losing their moral compass, their unity.
And eventually, their ability to thrive.
Precisely.
So it's not just about those historical figures, it's about the underlying principles they represent. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Shri Suresh sees these principles in many different cultures and religions.
Oh, so it's not confined to one specific belief system.
Not at all. He uses examples from Christianity and Islam.
Huh. So he sees them as universal.
Exactly. He even compares the Christian concept of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit to his principles of fatherhood, faith, and transmission of knowledge.
Wow, that's an intriguing parallel.
And it speaks to the universality of these ideas, something that resonates across different belief systems.
Absolutely.
He also brings in this beautiful concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Which means?
The whole world is one family.
Ah, yes, I've heard that before.
How do you think that connects to these universal principles?
Well, it points to this interconnectedness of all beings.
Yeah.
And Shri Suresh suggests that fatherhood and faith are fundamental to that connection.
It's like the threads that weave the tapestry of human experience.
Regardless of our backgrounds.
I love that imagery.
Me too.
It's like these principles are the glue that holds humanity together.
Right, reminding us of our shared origin and destiny.
It makes me think about the role of mentorship and guidance, something Shri Suresh emphasizes.
Yes. He talks about transmission being vital for spiritual growth.
What exactly does he mean by that?
Transmission, as he describes it, is about getting rid of negative elements. He calls them mala, vikshepa, and avaran.
Obstacles on the spiritual path.
Right, and then merging oneself with a higher spiritual force.
So it's a two-part process.
It is purification and alignment.
So it's not just about gaining knowledge.
No, it's about purifying ourselves.
Removing the blockages, preventing that connection with a higher force.
Precisely.
And this ties into the relationship between a disciple and a guru or master,
Absolutely. The master guides the disciple through this process.
helping them shed limitations and connect with their true potential.
Exactly.
Now, I'm really curious to see how these principles played out in Shri Suresh's own life.
Yeah, especially given that disclaimer he included.
It feels like his personal journey might hold some powerful insights for us.
For sure. It really does. His relationship with his own Appa, his father figure and guru, Shri Raghavendra Rao Sahib, is fascinating.
It seems like this relationship was a living example of the principles he writes about.
It was. Shri Suresh describes him as someone who lived and breathed these spiritual principles.
More than just a teacher.
Exactly. He embodied the teachings.
I want to know more about Shri Raghavendra Rao Sahib. What was he like as a person?
Well, what's interesting is that Shri Suresh talks about his humor, his simplicity.
He wasn't just this distant spiritual figure.
Not at all. He had deep love and compassion for others.
It makes him seem more relatable.
He was deeply engaged with life.
It reinforces the idea that these principles apply to all aspects of life.
Exactly. Shri Suresh even talks about his family life, the bond he had with his wife and children.
Wow. So he integrated spiritual practice into everyday life,
He did. It shows how these principles can be lived out in a normal family setting.
which makes them feel more attainable.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, Shri Raghavendra Rao Saheb had a background in mechanical engineering.
Oh, that's right.
Not the typical path you'd expect for a spiritual master.
It seems like a contradiction.
But Shri Suresh highlights how grounded his guru was in the practical world.
He had this depth of spiritual understanding, but was still connected to reality.
Exactly. It's like he showed how these two realms can enrich each other.
The material and the spiritual.
Yes. It's not about rejecting one for the other.
It's about integrating,
Finding that balance.
bringing spiritual awareness into everything we do.
Absolutely.
Now, Shri Suresh also mentions Shri Raghavendra Rao Saheb's own guru, Shri Babuji Maharaj.
Right. The lineage is important here.
It shows how spiritual knowledge is passed down through generations.
From master to disciple.
Shri Suresh even tells a story about their first meeting.
Oh, tell me about it.
Apparently, Shri Babuji Maharaj just looked at his disciple and said, "Though."
Which means?
Okay, in Hindi.
And that was it.
That was enough to transmit this profound understanding.
Wow. That's incredible.
It shows the power of transmission, as Shri Suresh describes it.
It's a direct connection.
Heart to heart.
Where knowledge is conveyed on a deeper level.
It makes you wonder if words are even necessary.
It's about energy.
A resonance between souls.
You got it. And Shri Suresh emphasizes the strength of their connection. They communicated constantly, even across great distances.
So their bond went beyond physical proximity.
Absolutely. And Shri Babuji Maharaj gave his disciple full authority to transmit this practice to others.
Wow, what a responsibility.
It was. Shri Raghavendra Rao Saheb carried the torch forward.
So he became more than just a disciple.
A representative of the lineage?
Now, this brings up an interesting point. Shri Suresh clearly revered his guru,
Yes, he did.
but he also had a sharp intellect, a scientific mind.
He did. A love for knowledge.
How did he reconcile that with faith and devotion?
That's a question many people struggle with. It seems Shri Suresh didn't see faith and intellect as opposites.
But as complements.
Yes. He approached spiritual practice with a discerning mind, but also deep trust in his guru's wisdom.
He wasn't afraid to ask questions,
He was a voracious reader.
always seeking knowledge.
And understanding.
It sounds like he embodied a true spirit of inquiry.
He did, growing both intellectually and spiritually.
Which makes me wonder, how did the events of his time shape his worldview? He lived through India's independence, partition, so much upheaval.
You can't separate his journey from that context.
Yeah.
He was deeply affected by the suffering he witnessed.
And it fueled his search for peace.
And liberation.
Not just for himself.
But for everyone.
It makes his spiritual seeking more profound.
Driven by compassion for humanity.
A yearning for positive change.
Exactly. And that's where Sahaj Marg comes in.
The spiritual path founded by Shri Babuji Maharaj.
It resonated with him because it emphasized direct experience.
Simplicity.
Love over fear.
It aligned with his values.
A practical approach to spiritual growth.
Before we talk about Shri Suresh's meditation experiences, what stands out to you most about Shri Raghavendra Rao Saheb?
His commitment to a life of purpose, rooted in love, compassion, and service. He didn't just retreat into himself. He wanted to bring these principles into the world to make a real difference. And he did it with humility, joy, and a deep connection to all beings.
He truly walked the walk.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to Shri Suresh's own experiences with deep meditation. He shares some incredible accounts of his inner journey.
Yes, his descriptions of intense emotions and physical sensations during meditation are fascinating.
It sounds like his experiences were quite intense. It makes you wonder, were those experiences unique to him? Or is that something anyone could access with deep meditation?
That's a great question, and it's something Shri Suresh addresses. He doesn't frame these as supernatural or extraordinary.
But rather,
He sees them as an unfolding of human potential, accessible through dedicated practice.
so it's not about special abilities,
No, it's about the effort, surrendering to the process.
letting in the work.
Exactly. He believed these states of consciousness are available to anyone willing to cultivate the right inner conditions through meditation and spiritual practice.
That's encouraging. Makes it seem less intimidating.
Definitely.
Now, as we talk about deep meditation, There's a phrase Shri Suresh uses, becoming like the meditator. What does that even mean?
It's beautiful imagery. It describes dissolving the boundaries between ourselves and the object of meditation.
So it's not just about observing thoughts or focusing on a mantra,
It goes beyond that. It's about merging with that higher force, becoming one with it.
transcending separation.
Yes. Aligning with that universal consciousness, tapping into the infinite wisdom and love within us.
That's powerful. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Shri Suresh's work, I'm thinking about how we apply all of this. We've talked about fatherhood, faith, transmission, meditation, but where do we go from here?
It's the key question, right? And thankfully, Shri Suresh offers practical guidance. He talks about susanskars,
Positive impressions, tendencies within us.
right, as the foundation for spiritual growth.
Okay, so how do we actually cultivate those? Make it tangible?
It starts with awareness, paying attention to our thoughts, actions, reactions, noticing those patterns that keep us stuck.
The negative tendencies.
Exactly. Once we're aware, we can choose a different response.
Instead of reacting habitually.
Yes. Pause, breathe, ask, what's a more skillful way to handle this?
It's like rewiring our brains.
Creating new pathways for positive tendencies.
And it's not about perfection.
It takes practice, patience, self-compassion. We'll stumble.
It's a process.
It is. And this is where the principle of Appa comes in. Seeking guidance from someone who embodies what we aspire to.
A mentor, a guide,
Someone who can offer support.
encouragement, accountability, a new perspective.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a formal guru. It could be a therapist, a friend, anyone who inspires us.
Finding those sources of support to keep us on track.
And navigate those bumps in the road.
Which brings us to faith, doesn't it? Trusting in something bigger.
Faith is essential. And it's not blind belief, it's trust that grows from experience, from seeing the power of these principles in action.
In our lives and others.
It strengthens with every step we take. And meditation can really nurture that faith.
Helping us connect to that source of wisdom and support.
Yes. It cultivates inner stillness, allowing us to access a deeper dimension of ourselves.
Experiencing the interconnectedness Shri Suresh talks about.
Connecting to that universal consciousness.
This has been such a rich exploration of Shri Suresh Kumar Makam's work. We've gone deep into these principles, fatherhood, faith, transmission, meditation, and explored how to bring them into our lives. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I think Shri Suresh reminds us that we're not alone in this. We're part of something vast and interconnected, supported by unseen forces, guided by timeless wisdom. And we're capable of awakening to our true potential.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
It is. We have the power to shape our lives, to cultivate the qualities we desire, and to make a difference.
And the journey itself is a process of unfolding, of discovering those infinite possibilities within us. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the writings of Shri Suresh Kumar Makam.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found inspiration to continue exploring these principles and to experience their transformative power in your own lives.
Yeah.